What's up, YouTube? What's happening? So 2001 Shaq versus 2025 Jokic. Is this even an issue? Shaq is the last of the big men still talking and still able to being come after. You know, when people don't think that the bigs are ignored, they're ignored selectively unless someone has an agenda. There's obviously an agenda to push Jokic into. I already did the video why Shaq and Wilt are better than him. But this whole thing about 2001 Shaq versus 2025 Jokic. Jokic is going to have the better statisticals in the regular season. And some people are going to come at me and say, oh, what about Kobe? Well, Kobe was getting better his second run with Shaq. He definitely played up. He came from a long way from the first one. So that's a fair. And Phil Jackson runs circles over Mike Malone. That's fair. Now, can I sell you on Derek Fisher, Rick Fox? Over Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr. Can I sell you on that? When Shaq won in 01, and he won, the Philadelphia 76ers had what? The Sixers? Allen Iverson was the MVP. Larry Brown was Coach of the Year. Who was it? Was it Derek McKee? Who was it? Was it Sixth Man of the Year? Dikembe was Defensive Player of the Year. They had the best owner, best cheerleaders, best food. They had all these. And even acknowledging them being from Philly back when the BET Awards mattered. Remember all that? Everybody was Philly, Philly, Philly. But all I remember is Shaq was just charcuteling all what they threw at him up. Now, Todd McCullum, granted. But then again, there's not even a Todd McCullum today that Joker gets to see, let alone a Dikembe. So, people don't understand when they threw 4 centers at you, 24 fouls, flopping, acting. But let's look at the totality of the realness of it. Shaq should have been an MVP consideration. They gave it to Iverson. They were, what was it? 16-1, 15-1. They had this at that time. They had one of the best postseason runs ever. Only this 83 Sixers and the 96, but one of those Bulls teams had a similar run. Yeah, 96 Bulls, 83 Sixers. So you're talking about historical implications, regular season, postseason. The reason why Jokic doesn't match up to Shaq is because, yeah, you can debate him to an extent to the regular season, but then again, think about this. Jokic ain't never have to worry about no big strong dude that can clog up the middle, can wheel and go, bump and shake, and create. Shaq used to have to come off the perimeter a whole lot against the centers. Remember the power forwards, the bigs, they was taking him outside. As a matter of fact, one of the keys to exploiting the triangle on defense was to bring the bigs out. That's what you did. But he was a good off defender at times. Shaq could play on his toes, and he got blocks. There was a rawness to his game, so he was a better defender than Jokic. And I do believe he would have figured him out. I'm just saying, you know. People are looking at the excuse me. They're looking at the regular season, which is great. 30 triple doubles. you know. Um but is it impacting your team in terms of winning? You had no doubts that when Shaq was at the peak of his powers, they were coming out the West. See, that alone makes this case, the Shaq of 2001 and Jokic of 2025, a joke. Because if you were around to see, it ain't up for discussion. It ain't even close. One man was dominant. And for 4 or 5 years, he ran rush out on league and was camping out in June in the finals. The other man has been to one finals, has got multiple league MVPs, but will he get out the second round? You didn't ask that for Shaq. You told Shaq to be sitting at that head of the table, you had to do these. That's what Kareem told him. Big difference. Now they up here trying to tell you that Joker is the most offensively gifted center ever. He's not. That belongs to Wilt Chamberlain. He's not the most dominant in terms of his force and his strength. That's Shaquille O'Neal. And he doesn't have a shot that's unmatched like Kareem, or the will of his team like Bill Russell. So he's not at that table. But just going up against Shaq took it upon himself to do what he did during those years and dominate and run the table. He had gotten to a point in his career, it's like, I'm about winning chips. Personal accolades don't mean nothing. Give me the chips. That's what he did. So that's what I present to you. And until Jokic is competing in finals and doing it, he can't. You can't. He's not asserting any dominance. He's a great talent, great player, individualize all that. But you're not. And no one is looking at Denver as a finalist right now. And why is that? Well, they can't even beat the Minnesota Timberwolves. So when I think about what they did when they swallowed up Sacramento in the playoffs, demolished the Spurs. Because you remember when Shaq did that magic no-look driving? I remember that. Beat them up. Beat them up. When he was running the league, he was a bully. He was mean and he was bad. And he made it look effortlessly. That's what you need to do, is to win and dominate. Because you can come at me with these stats and accolades, but you're not running the game like Shaq did. And before people say, well, the style and he's one dimensional, all that. No, he won with what he had. You had bigs that took you outside. He had to go against Vlade Divac. Vlade shot outside. Arvydas Sabonis did. I know Sabonis was pushing 58, but he could shoot outside. It's not nothing new about outside rotation. They play triangle. People drew you out. Power forwards were shooting outside. David Robinson would pull up on your behind. Hakeem Olajuwon bake and shake you. That's what Shaq went up against. Jokic gets the part-time Joel Embiid. If Anthony Davis as well, he got his way against AD for the most part. And who else? Who else? Because I'll give you time to tell me who these other legit credible centers are, these players are. It's a big difference. And now, that version of Shaq during his three-peat or during his 4 run to 5 finals in LA is still going to stomp a mud hole through Jokic. And it ain't going to be close. But people can keep on thinking what they want. But, yeah, that era, 2001, when they had one of the greatest postseason runs ever, they lost one game, and that was in overtime to Iverson and the Sixers. And that was in overtime. Jokic ain't coming close to that. I welcome him too. If he do, I'll revisit this. But it's Shaquille O'Neal. That's the definitive answer. Regular season and postseason and the finals. Don't get it twisted. You got to do the threes. Please like, subscribe, welcome thoughts, comments, and I do respond. Thank you. Wash your hands. Keep your mind clear. Watch out for another. Share it if you like it. The membership. Stay safe, stay blessed, stay woke, stay free. I'm out. Peace.